This 2019 16-inch MacBook Pro is possibly, actually most definitely, the best Mac for gaming and pretty much everything else on the market right now. Even the new M2 Pro stuff that we're just hearing about. Um, and this is because this is an Intel machine, so it's x86 64 instead of ARM. That's how the M1 Pro machines are so efficient is, well, basically because they use a completely new architecture that was previously only seen on the iPhone. And you don't see many AAA iPhone games, so you really need to be running a very popular operating system, pretty much the most popular one, aka Windows. You can run Windows 10 on this machine just fine, and even there's patches for 11 as well. Not that I would do that. Uh, I have. I mean, there's games that run really well on Windows, and with the 8 core, 2.4 gigahertz, 9th gen Core i9 this has, which is top spec for this particular machine. It doesn't last very long on battery, but it it definitely is a very capable processor. And the GPU, the which is a little bit weird. It's an AMD GPU. It's an AMD Radeon Pro 5600M, I believe, and the VRAM video memory is actually a little bit strange as well. Uh, the 5600M has 8 gigs of HBM2, which that stands for high bandwidth memory, and apparently that's better than GDDR6. The GPU isn't, at least for most GPUs. It's about like 1660 Ti or a little bit above that equivalent, in a laptop form, and it gets scary hot. But I use max fan control, so that doesn't really bother me all that much. What does bother me is that will drain the battery very quick, even quicker than the i9 will, and that's already pretty quick. It's supposed to last up to 10 hours, but that's bullcrap. Pretty much. I mean, I haven't really tested it, but it sure as hell it ain't gonna last even 8 hours watching YouTube. I think that's due to YouTube's recent codec stuff and just UI elements and all the fancy jazz that's on YouTube that has decreased performance on that platform. But anyway, yes, this is only USB-C, so USB-C is for everything. No MagSafe here, but if you just, I mean, I don't know. Actually, I really like MagSafe. I think it's a great idea, and I think they should have kept on that with this machine. But just because they didn't is no reason to be um, like hating on this machine in terms of using it. This machine it runs Mac OS, and unfortunately 10.14 does not run on this machine, which means no 32-bit app support, which means pretty much all Valve games, apart from a couple, will not run on this machine in the native Mac OS operating system. But that's what Windows is for, and I have Windows running on this machine as well as Mac OS, thanks to the Boot Camp feature that was featured on all Intel machines from like 2007 onward, pretty much. Um, and it's very easy on this, only a couple clicks, and you'll have Windows on this machine, full support for the touch bar and stuff like that. Apps won't be able to use the touch bar, of course, but that's kind of a given. The battery is as big as is allowed to be taken on aboard an aircraft. 100 watt hours. That goes for any electronic device. You can't have. I mean, I think there's passes for that, like for government officials and such, but for civilians, it's only 100 watt hours you can take aboard an aircraft. I might make another video, like a full length video on this machine. My brain is kind of working in overdrive, and I just decided to make this video right before I go to bed. I'm gonna have company over tomorrow. We're gonna film a video, hopefully putting a massive battery in an iPod Classic. But for this machine, for the price, I mean, it's pretty freaking expensive. I paid $1,800 for this, and that's actually the best price I've seen on any any 16-inch 2019 i9 of this caliber. This is pretty much maxed out, except for the RAM, which I didn't even talk about. The system memory, the RAM, has 32 gigs, which I think from Apple, it could have been upgraded to 64, but there's no real reason to do that unless you're doing high-powered rendering and stuff like that. But basically, this machine has 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and it runs at 2666 megahertz, which I mean, in Mac OS, sometimes it'll say 2667, but I believe that's a rounding issue with the way these machines work. But anyway, so yeah, um, the what's weird is this has an M2, or not M2, no, it has a T2 security chip, which actually isn't just a security chip. And which you can bypass a lot of the security that this implements, and that's really cool. That's a really useful feature if you just want to use your damn machine and not have it be the most secure ever, entering the password every 10 minutes. But anyway, so yeah, this machine has a T2 security chip, which can do a few other things too. This is one of the first incarnations of the H.265 or X.265 or X.264 even, encoding acceleration processors within the MacBooks and Mac line, which means basically the regardless of what GPU is installed in the system, the way it encodes the video information is slightly different than like NVIDIA or AMD, for example, or even Intel. It'll use the GPU and the CPU a little bit anyway, but it's going to be about the same speed regardless of which Mac you buy. For example, the 2018 Mac Mini that I have in the other room encodes about the same as this, which even if I make this only use the 5600M high-powered GPU, which you can do with third-party apps, by the way. You can also do a lot of what third-party apps, which I didn't know when I had one of these before. I got rid of it because I found the CPU drained heaps. It just drained the battery way too quickly with just the CPU and the CPU's iGPU, which that's like the power saving mode. That's separate from the 5600M. It can use the integrated UHD Intel graphics. I think it's UHD graphics 617, if I remember correctly, which I believe can also use 1.5 gigabytes of VRAM, which it shares with the system, so it's quite slow, but it's actually not as bad as you would think. You can actually game on it. You can play Minecraft on it just fine and runs perfectly fine. Which I would do if I was using this on battery, because you really don't want to use this on its battery if it's using the 5600M, because that'll drain in like less than an hour. I'm not even kidding, it's that quick. But this machine's battery is slightly degraded. It's about 92% health, which means it holds like 92% its original 100 watt hour capacity. So it holds about 92 watt hours in its current form. But yeah, I might do a full-length video of this later on, but for now, 10 likes, and I will make one. So yeah, thanks for watching. This is Arid Redux, and I'll see you in the next video, which will be with Garrett and Truman. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.